The following discussion is not necessarily the views of all involved. The goal is to start open and honest discussion in the Christian worldview. Like all things, weigh what you hear with what you know and join us in our pursuit for the truth. Enjoy the podcast.
Oh, it's Christus Victor so hard it doesn't even care.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be watching too many Ancient Alien shows. I don't think we should change the ordering of the Bible. I'm not saying that.
Nah, I'm gonna die on that hill. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to an episode of the Second Rate Saints podcast. I'm your producer, Caleb. Today we are missing Joel, and so rather than to my left, straight across the table from me is
Colton, and to my left
Is Josh, the head of R&D, and back to my left is Caleb.
yeah, we're making the triangle today.
Yeah,
Like it.
But Trinity.
Wow, wow, we're starting
I
off
don't know if we should refer
strong
to ourselves as a
and
Weak.
yeah. Anyway, right at the beginning, we're going downhill. But Josh, beyond making bad jokes, what else do? You read sometimes, right? What have you read?
Occasionally.
What?
On an occasion.
You've been known to do that, as you
Yeah.
have your giant.
Library
giant
behind me.
stack. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you reading? What have you read?
I like fiction and both nonfiction, but recently I've jumped into the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov, the pinnacle of science fiction. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. The foundation of science fiction. See what I did there?
Yeah, I got it.
did,
Yeah.
I did.
Is this the first time that we're doing a book not related to either philosophy or religion?
I think so.
Or is this book have both philosophy and religion?
It has both.
Nice.
Yeah. No, because Isaac Asimov is an intellectual.
Oh.
Not a. What I mean by that is like he's not just writing like a story to write a salacious story. Like it's actually he's making a point
Thought-provoking.
about society. He's making a
Okay.
point about like humanity, like stuff like that. So basically, just a short overview of the story without spoiling anything. I mean, it's a 7-book series.
say,
It's been out for 1,000 years.
I was gonna say it's out
Yeah.
since the 50s, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, and so like this, because it's so old, this book is actually like the inspiration for like Dune, and Dune being the inspiration for Star Wars, and like every giant space galactic empire.
Would you say it's the
2001.
foundation of science fiction?
Yeah, dude, where did you get that joke from?
Don't worry, it was bad when you said
Yeah.
it. It was still bad when I said it.
How many times are
yeah.
we gonna make the foundation joke?
Oh, we're gonna make it all the time.
Well, it's-
So there's actually 2 foundations
oh yeah.
in the Foundation series, but we'll get to that. So the story basically goes that humanity is spread across the entire Milky Way.
We're okay with spoiling it because it's been out for forever, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's been
out
70
for
years.
70 years. Yeah.
Okay. Just clarifying.
Yeah. I'm just gonna give like a
Light
like the back of the
spoilers.
book
Light spoilers,
plot
yeah.
points, which is like the universe has been around for 12,000 years. Humanity is so advanced that it's got like 200 million worlds. It's got everything it needs. Name a thing, it's got it. Like, oh, you want a knife that never dulls? We have that. Do you want a personal shield that's powered by a nuclear reactor the size of an almond? We have that. Like, it's to the point where there's no need for anything. Like, we're not like
Are humans immortal?
effectively.
Okay.
Like
you can
No
die.
sickness.
you,
kind of
like
thing.
like most disease. Well, it's like
the
it's like,
panacea has been discovered.
yeah, but it's like with like today where it's like you make a new medicine, a new virus evolves.
Okay.
So like people are still like at one point the emperor himself is dying of a disease and they can't cure it.
Okay.
Like it's
But most things.
yeah,
Like,
the
okay.
flu doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Like and like yeah. So it's huge. The population is in the quadrillions. Quickly they it's becoming bureaucratic. He makes this really cool argument that, like, humanity can't spread this far without falling into chaos, because bureaucracy and like despotism and greed and all those things will just take over. Humans can't orchestrate in a group that big across such a large amount of space. And so the story is that this scientist who comes up with this new mathematics called psychohistory, which is you can, with mathematical precision, predict the future. Predicts that the empire is going to collapse in 300 years.
Right.
And that there's going to be 30,000 years of anarchy that follows. All the planets are going to be warring with each other. There's going to be rise and fall of kingdoms, blah, blah, blah. But if they do a certain amount of things, they can shorten that gap by 1,000 years, and that there'll be a new empire after, and it'll be fine again. And the plot is of that, like, the series of events that this character, Harry Seldon, predicts. Of like, okay, so we need to create this foundation, like a scientific foundation, not like a building foundation.
Okay.
And when we do that, they will accumulate knowledge. And in doing so, when you accumulate all the things you learn and store them together, so that when you go into that chaotic, anarchic moment,
Oh, like Gobake Tepe or whatever it is.
Göbekli Tepe,
Yeah.
or the monks after the Dark Ages
Right.
that
Yeah,
collected all the
yeah.
books. That you won't fall into that chaos for as long because we'll remember what we forgot. And so they'll start it back. Anyways, yeah, that's the plot of the books. But then the story changes. Stuff messes up with that.
And this is part of a series, right?
7 books. There's a
Oh my
3-book
gosh.
main series.
Okay.
And then there's a 2-book sequel.
If you were
It's
going to
very similar to Dune in that way.
Yeah.
If you were going to pitch this book that I should read it,
Yeah.
and you had 2 sentences to do it, what are you going to say? That's one.
Never has dialogue been so entertaining. There's been one fight in 2 books.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's action oriented, more about the sci-fi ideas
Well,
themselves.
no, there's tense situations. There's whole planets at war with each other and stuff like that. But
Okay.
it's happening. But like the characters themselves don't get into like
no space Star Wars battles.
yeah,
Okay.
like it's mentioned like yeah they took this planet, whatever.
Okay.
But it's like it's the point of the story is the like the events that are laying out through the 1,000 years that occur because like basically every chapter there's like a new character.
Okay.
Because it's like 10, 50 years has gone by.
Oh, so it's kind of like War and Peace in that regard.
Yeah. And so it's like,
It's less than 300 pages. That's
yeah.
Okay,
The first book.
yeah.
It's not bad at all. And the first book spans like 80 years. And then like the
Okay.
second book spans like 200. And then like,
Right. Exponentially gets longer and longer.
yeah. That's it. Like he just does a really good job of talking about civilization, humanity, and like why it's hard to make a functioning society.
There's a reason people call Isaac Asimov the father of sci-fi and all that.
Yeah.
Does it? Well, I guess obviously with any sci-fi book is just going to go into the idea that hey, scientific progress is not just going to alleviate the human experience of suffering, turmoil, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's not
it's
going to
not.
answer the problem of meaning. It's not going to answer.
No.
It's just humans with the same problems in a different context.
Yeah. And just fancier stuff.
Yeah. And if
Right.
you go otherwise, if you want to go to a book that tries to answer that, most of the time it's some kind of like utopian-esque,
Yeah.
dystopian
Yeah.
genres try to go into that more
Yeah.
that direction.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just the background of hey, humans are still humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Humans are humans.
Yeah,
It's hard to
sounds
get out of that.
interesting. I love sci-fi.
Oh, it's great.
I love it.
And you can see the imprints that it leaves on future stuff. Like the capital planet Trantor is 40 billion people and the entire thing is covered in machine and city. And that's the
Coruscant.
from Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's like
Okay.
and they straight up ripped it. That's where the council and the emperor lives.
Right.
Like-
right. Yeah.
Like
It's where the Jedi Temple is.
Yeah. And so, yeah, just straight up, and it's good stories.
Cool.
He does a good job.
That's good.
Yeah, it's almost as good as one story in the Bible that Caleb here is going to be
That's
covering.
a rough transition, but I enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess we're going over the final gospel in our Gospels series. Next week, we're going to be doing more of a harmony of the gospel.
is
Right.
it the final gospel?
I was literally about to ask that. Yeah.
We talked about this in the first episode, guys.
I know.
You were there.
I know, but hear me out. The Gnostic Gospels.
Actually, you know it's a big theme in John, the last gospel?
Yeah.
Those are, no.
Wow.
Gnostic beliefs. So one of the main themes, I guess we'll get into the themes right away, just because it fit.
John's Gospel, right?
Yes. There's two, like, there's one theme that's stated explicitly, obviously, at the end, and it's I'll find the exact verse here, but so, like, the primary purpose is clearly stated at the end of the gospel in 21, 24, 25, where it's like, hey, this disciple who's bearing witness about these things, he's talking about the disciple whom Jesus loved, and who had written these things, we know that his testimony is true, blah, 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 blah. We know that many other things have been written. It was written so that you may believe.
Yeah.
So the purpose of the book is to convince the audience of, hey, this is the story of how, and I guess I'm kind of repeating myself with all the other gospels that we went through. This is the story of how Jesus changed the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's very unique things about John, because every other time that we've brought up gospels, we always get immediately hooked into the
Right.
Was
Q
this
source
influenced by Q?
Yeah, well, how is this influenced by Q? What is Q? All the other synoptic problems. Where do they get this stuff from? Not with John. We get to skip that. So if you're tired of hearing that after 3 episodes, no problem. It's not here.
Perfect.
Yeah, none of that. The
so
secondary purpose.
Not one of the synoptic gospels.
Not one of the yeah, it is the non-synoptic.
Okay.
The secondary purpose, and this plays out in its theological themes that its points that it's trying to drive home, is that it heavily goes against the heresies and Gnostic beliefs, and those things being manifested in one and the same. Specifically about denial of either Christ's physical body here on earth, or his full deityship, or his physical resurrection. Those specifically, but many other ones as well.
Yeah.
Especially with there's this tie with Gnostics, with secret knowledge and secret information, and there's this like, hey, Jesus just comes and he's there.
Yeah.
You accept him or not. This isn't a secret. This is a thing. This is open.
Right.
Yeah.
It's available to everyone.
This is powerful.
Yeah. Well, do the people that are in darkness come to the light or not?
Yeah.
Right.
It's there. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing in John.
It forces you to the precipice to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like intellectually, we're just like, but what about this? Doesn't matter. Answer it.
Yeah. There's also there's a similar thing in the Synoptic Gospels. I think it's specifically in Matthew and Mark, where there's the after the feeding of the 5,000. There's the who do you say that I am, right?
Yeah.
And there's like, well, you're this. Well, what do some people say that I am? Well, you're this, or you're this, or you're that. You're John the Baptist. You're Elijah. Who do you say that I am?
Yeah.
And well, obviously the question is for Peter. Peter gives the response. He gives the correct response. Blah blah blah. It's also a question that just rears its head and goes to the reader and, hey, who do you think think Jesus is?
Do what I like about questions like this. Like, okay, so this reminds me of the end of Jonah, where it's like, it ends with the question, and then you're just left with the like, oh.
Yeah,
right?
You, like Jonah, have to answer the question.
Well, no, and what I love about it is it's the same guy. Like, asking the question. Right? The guy asking Jonah the question, what do you want to do? Kill all these people? Like, and then that guy is Jesus asking Peter the question, what do you want me to do? Like, who do you think I am?
Yeah.
And he just drops these, like, life-altering questions.
Well, with Jonah, it's actually in the context of, hey, do you want me to be a merciful and loving God like you know me to be or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or do you want me to be the kind of God that destroys everything because at a whim?
Yeah. Who do you want?
Because you're angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's the context there. But Jonah's awesome. I could go on about Jonah.
Yeah.
We could do a whole episode on Jonah.
Oh, fun fact, it's the book that Jesus quotes the most.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Deuteronomy maybe, but explicitly.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but the other guys here went through authorship and date, so we'll do some light stuff. Authorship's going to be more interesting. Date is less so, because it's not a synoptic gospel, and its influence is obviously more against later developments and challenges within the Christian church. Most people say that, well, it reflects a later date. It's the priorities and the themes that it's trying to cover reflect a more developed Christological viewpoint.
Okay.
The problems that it's targeting didn't really exist in the early and first century. It existed in the late and second and third century, actually.
Okay.
The earliest record of it is actually a document, a papyri document found in Egypt, which is specifically important, which we'll get into, during, when is it normally dated to? Yeah, around like 125 AD-ish. There's normally like that's normally like a 50-year window with that. But the reason why it's interesting that it's found in Egypt is it looks to be originally written in either Greece or Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, around Ephesus probably, give or take, somewhere in there.
Which makes sense, because doesn't Ephesus is where John goes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually buried in Ephesus, although he spent his exile in Patmos.
Yes. Because doesn't his exile end at some point, and he just goes back to
early church fathers are like, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, cool.
You know, like
I like that.
Like most early church father stuff, it's like maybe.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be watching too many Ancient Alien shows. Don't they have John's house?
You can never watch Tamaine.
Stop. What? No. This is turned into an intervention podcast for Josh.
Sorry.
No, it's John the Revelator. Come on.
I had the Mormons.
I had to bring a little Joel into this podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I miss him.
We miss you, Joel.
More themes. Are there more?
There are, but I'm going to go a little bit more on date. One of the scholars actually talks about the fact that the fragment. There's a quote. The fact that the fragment was found in Egypt would suggest that it looks like the gospel had some time to migrate around, or migrate there. There's a growing conviction among scholars that the first citations of the gospel occur in the letter of Ignatius of Antioch, written between 110 and 117. Most scholars tentatively date, whether secular or Christian, tentatively date the last gospel anywhere between 85, 90 to 110, 120.
Right.
Yeah.
Which doesn't rule, as some people may note, that's pretty late if the guy's, born in, let's say, 10 AD, something like that.
Sure.
It is worth noting that John, at least according to patristic, early church fathers, evidence, was pretty young during the actual events recorded in the gospel. He's thought to be the youngest.
Yeah.
He could be anywhere between like 13, 15 years old.
I mean, it makes sense.
There's been I've been noticing this a lot more recently, that they've been going really hard on the disciples were really young.
Yeah.
And like Peter being the oldest.
Yeah.
And the evidence for that is because it's in the story of paying the temple tax. It's only Peter and Jesus who have to pay it.
Yep. Isn't it interesting?
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they're not theoretically. The story could just not be talking about them, but the theory is that they're not old enough to have to pay the temple tax.
I think that goes against this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Matthew has to be old enough to collect taxes for the Romans.
Yes.
That would not indicate someone that is decently young. That would indicate at least someone that is of, let's say, mature enough status to actually engage in his own legal interactions with society.
Though they hated tax collectors, so he might have not been allowed in.
Perhaps. Or he had a different way
What do you mean? Allowed into the paying in the temple tax? No, man, they made everyone pay the temple tax. No.
Okay.
But that's a point against it.
Yeah.
But you're right. There is in modern scholarship, there is a thing that's like, hey, they were probably younger than we normally think.
Yeah. They weren't in their 30s.
However, John is normally thought to be, if they're all fairly young, John is normally thought to be the youngest. And so a super late dating like that isn't necessarily unheard of.
Yeah.
And not to say that it was written in 85 or older.
Yeah.
And this gets into actually authorship, which I guess have weird views on, apparently.
Okay.
I don't know. I've read other commentaries. Most commentaries will be like, it's John, son of Zebedee, the disciple. Or some have even gone in the direction of like, hey, it's John the Elder, who wrote definitely First John, but maybe Second and Third, who the early church fathers, separated from John the disciple, and that's a whole thing, and that's very confusing for Johannine literature, which don't really want to get into,
Right.
mainly because people can say that, but
Yeah, and we can get bogged down in it for a while.
yeah, like the other Gospels, none of the early church fathers said anything different than, hey, Gospel of John? Oh, this is John the disciple. However, the first, hey, this is Gospel according to John, the first superscript doesn't show up until 200 BC. Not
Okay.
BC, AD.
200 BC.
It's from before Jesus. Prophecy. And so that should be taken into account, that the early church fathers were ascribing the authorship before the superscript was there, as far as we are aware. It's worth noting that there's also some additions into the text, like the just off the cuff. We're just going to list a couple. The greatest example, though, however, is the John 8 women caught in adultery.
Yes.
The other stuff, though, are mostly small little things here and there. They're not massive additions. It'll be like...
And if people are confused about the John 8 thing, a lot more recently it's been included in things like even devotional books and stuff. So at the beginning of John 8, like you said, the woman caught in adultery probably wasn't in the original text.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's specifically chapter 7, verse 53 to chapter 8, verse 11.
In fact, like when I had to do an assignment even on John for school, I didn't even include that in the outline.
Yeah.
Because that's normally where a lot of scholarship is going. However, authorship set aside.
Yep.
John's one of those. John's genre might provide insight into its authorship, I think. So the
Okay.
prologue actually sets up a very, very unique thing, and that's one of the reasons why anybody who picks up John, compared after reading the Synoptics, will go, "Oh, this is a different type of record."
Yeah.
And the prologue is 1:1 to 1:18.
Yes.
Okay.
It depends whether or not you actually count John the Baptist proclamation.
Yes.
Some do, some don't, because it appears to bleed in,
Yes.
unless it ends hard at
Right.
Or in the philosophical sense, is that when the narrative becomes the historical?
maybe. I think that you're right with ending it at which verse did you mention there?
18.
18.
After it talks
I think
about
that you're
the
correct.
word and the word becoming flesh and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Mainly because all the main themes in John are actually listed in that. That would be
Okay.
predominantly the theme of life, light, belief, world, death, darkness, flesh, truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of those are listed in that. As is actually the entire gospel narrative is actually laid out in that. The
Right.
darkness didn't, the light came into the world, but the darkness did not overcome it, blah, 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 blah. He came into the world that they might believe and have become children of God. The entire story is actually laid out in chapter 1. This is a very, very common theme in Greek narrative and Greek drama. And that's one of the reasons why people assume that the author or authors, as we may conclude in a second, were probably of Greek descent. However, whoever is the source of all the material, not just knows Jewish, let's say like Jewish traditions. They know specifically Palestinian Jewish traditions.
Yeah.
They
Right.
know the geography of Palestine. They know specifically they know specific names and exactly how far they are. They know they reference specific places, and so the source material is very rooted in
The actual location.
the
itself.
actual location itself.
Yeah.
Whereas the authorship is the genre is very, very Greek. And so it's one of those weird things where it's this actual merger of the two cultures in a weird way. Because for a while there in the past, scholars would say something to the effect of like, it's the most Greek thing. They have the whole sons of light and sons of this, and there's light, darkness, philosophy. What is the logos? Is it just the same as what Philo said?
Right.
Is it however, a lot of, with Qumran scrolls being discovered and all that, a lot of the themes that John plays with, and it's like, oh, no, that's not like quasi Greek. Those are heavy, heavy, heavy Jewish themes.
Yeah.
And so that's a newer discovery, quote unquote, within studies of John. the reason why I mentioned the authors, maybe plural, is at the end of the gospel in what's up?
It's never mind. Keep going.
Okay.
You know what you're talking about.
I'm just going to read what I have written here. Okay?
Yeah.
So there's the personally, and again, I didn't come across this in my research for this specific paper.
Yeah.
But I think that the text reveals that it's more of a conglomeration and a restructuring of stories and themes from an original source, either written or oral, that are presented by Greek authors in a Greek format for people to understand. Mm-hmm. And those authors knew Johannine motifs and theological truths.
Yeah.
It would mean that this Jewish background and content would still remain very strong. However, it's all done in a Greek medium, probably for Greeks, in a mostly dominated Greek context. But the Jewish themes can't really be removed because the source material all comes from whoever was originally the source material.
And it would be pretty hard to remove the Jewish themes from Jesus, a Jew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not, yeah.
Well, yeah. And this to me, this gets bolstered by in chapter right at the very end, 21, 24. There's the whole this is the disciple bearing witness to who has written these things, and we know that his testimony is true.
Yeah.
The phrase "we know," which is actually one word in Greek, is written in first person plural. If John had quote unquote written these things down, which is what that specific verse says, then who is the "we" in that sentence, if not the editors of the document that we now have? Fair enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's
How common of a belief is this?
It's not as common as I would personally think. I'm going to be straight up.
Okay.
I haven't read it in a lot.
Here's the thing. From all the people I've heard talk about this and stuff, I could 100% agree with this.
Well,
it's a collection. They collected John's documents, put them together into a thing that's something he'd already been writing before or had
Right.
notes on or something.
Are you saying that John has a J document?
Yes, kind of. Well, and here's one of the things too. All John's events compared to the other Gospels are completely out of order.
Oh yeah.
The majority of his ministry is at Jerusalem, not in Galilee. Not definitely he doesn't travel a whole lot. He kind of does because there's a big festivals motif, but even that's a little weird. Is there two instances of him cleansing the temple, or is there one?
Is it the same?
Or is there but this is where the whole Greek drama literature genre comes in. Greek playwrights, if we're going to say that, don't care about care even less than chronology. Care even less than historians and biographers.
Yeah.
It was all to prove a dramatic point. Everything is
right.
Everything is in themes. Everything was in a giant, English literature Shakespearean weird way. It was like, so I don't even want to go into that. But
yes,
I think that the text betrays this, like, hey, we have a bunch of source documents. These are stories that John said or wrote down himself. And you have people that either were creating this while he was alive or after he died.
Yeah.
And they constructed this story, collecting all of his sayings, all of his stories and theological beliefs.
Yeah.
And put it together in the thing that they would know, in the genre that they would know and fit the best.
With this idea, how much of it would be constructed by others rather than John himself constructing it?
The entire book.
Like more its structure, or you talk like its introduction and conclusion, or like the things written in it with itself?
It would be more structural.
Okay.
Based off of the themes that continue to be very similar with 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, assuming that they're also written by John the disciple rather than John the elder, even though they say John the elder, that's just saying that those are the same person.
Right.
Because the themes do cross over. Same thing with Revelation. There is a shared tonal, although it is a different genre, there's a similar theme going on. There's the way it presents Christ as, hey, the Lamb of God, the Lamb of God. And so there's a lot of similarities that would be odd if it wasn't the same author at all. However, the compilers likely understood his theological teachings. Jesus is the Lamb of God. They've listened to his sermons thousands and thousands of times.
Disciples kind of idea.
Yeah, it would be people like, it's possible Polycarp, who's a disciple of John, even had a hand in it. Something like that. You're talking students of him that either when he's passing or past collected his stuff, put it into a medium that they know how to deal with, work with, that works well with themes, and they presented basically Johannine testimony.
Right.
Yeah.
In the medium that they knew how.
Right. Because I really like this idea, and I think this might be even the one I agree with. But again, not to
it's not common.
Myself.
I'll say it out there.
It's not very common for you two to agree on most things.
I know. It's crazy.
Especially when I go off the rails.
It's crazy. No, you gave me a pretty convincing argument another time you talked to me about it. But when it comes to dating and authorship, it's like the other Gospels. It doesn't say directly, does it?
No. There is this. The disciple whom Jesus loved is singled out throughout the entire text.
Which
and then it is
towards whom?
Yeah, well, it's
John.
It's John, John the son of Zebedee specifically, because some people even say that John the Elder. Well, he wasn't really in Ephesus; he was actually in Jerusalem. Right. But ignoring that, because that's no one really takes no one. Whatever,
that's not important.
It's John the son of Zebedee. Is the disciple whom Jesus loved, and it's said that right at the conclusion, and it is his testimony that he wrote these things down. I think it's explicitly said this is the disciple who bears witness about these things and who wrote these things down.
Yes.
However, we know that his testimony is true.
Right.
So you have he wrote this, or he documented this, or he presented this, or this is at least his testimony of the things.
Yep.
But we know it's true, and who is we?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's at least presented in the text.
Split personality of John.
It's split personality of John. John the Revelator and John the Elder.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But you have. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought there.
Sorry.
The disciple, John the Elder.
Yeah. The biblical text, at least, not just puts not just like subvertly, but like explicitly, hey, whoever is the beloved disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, he's the author of this document.
Right.
It's just the identity of, hey,
putting it together.
Who is the disciple whom Jesus loved? That would be the question. And it's a pretty obvious answer to that, but whatever.
Kind of like the Silmarillion, like all of it was written by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah. J.R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
Wannabe.
But Christopher Tolkien put it together and published it.
Yes. Right. Actually, that's a great example of
his son, he understands how he writes, blah, blah, blah. Rounded the edges off because it wasn't a finished document.
Yeah, actually, that's actually a great analogy. Yeah. I should have probably thought of that.
No, it's okay.
But
you can't have all the right answers. We got to. That's why we have three of us.
That's why we're second rate.
Yeah.
We all collectively share a brain cell.
To the mic.
One brain cell.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get to use it.
But themes are like super, super, super prominent in John. Actually, if you miss the themes, you've missed the point.
Right. It's not much like the whole point of the Synoptic Gospels was to give a telling of the story. Mm-hmm. And like you said, that John, because it's very theme heavy, you're not supposed to focus necessarily on the narrative, although that's important too.
That's important.
But there is this, it's like watching an artsy movie.
The narrative is sacrificed for the themes. That's why it comes out out of order. That's why it's like, what is happening sometimes?
They just jump over to other area.
Yeah.
They're talking about whatever.
The Chronicles does that.
Exactly. Yeah.
The Chronicles, in almost intentionally, theoretically, the Manasseh story is historically out of alignment. But it it's just like
it's for the purpose of the time story.
Yeah.
Well, and we've mentioned this with other books with other books of the Bible where it's like, but they'll sacrifice chronology or historical inaccuracy. specifically more so with John, with Chronicles.
Yeah.
And this is not to say that it's fiction. It's not telling lies about Jesus. It's just giving specific things to present a certain point, right?
Yeah. Well, it's
Except for maybe John 8.
Except for John 8, yeah. Which, well, here's one of the weird things, and this is one of the things. So John 8's added in around 200 second century, right?
So not that far after.
Yeah, give or take. But here's one of the wild things. If it's just a compiled document of handed down stories from John, right?
Right.
And the original final editors, or like compilers, who structured the entire thing, were not, let's say, disciples or apostles themselves, but were mere disciples of Christ.
Yeah.
Right? If another mere disciple of Christ edits in another story...
Of John or of Christ?
Of John, of Christ, why would that be less considered inspired? I know why. I know.
No.
You see what I mean?
Biblical inspiration?
You see what I mean? Where it's just like,
Well, because like the argument is like if God can inspire the source document of Deuteronomy or Numbers or Genesis, and then also inspire the editor. Right, he can do it again with John.
Right,
like,
but yeah. Anyway, so that's one of those things where I'm just like,
I'm hesitant with all the editing I do.
Well, no. What I mean is like, it's here, right? John 8 is here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it inspired?
I personally go with no, but
are the quotes from the Apocrypha and Jude inspired?
The quotes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Should I then take the Apocrypha more seriously? Of course not.
No. I'm not saying that. But if they're quoting a story that disciples had that actually happened potentially,
if it actually happened, then
yeah.
But I don't know if it did. That's
and
the
for
problem.
2000.
But we don't know if any of the stories happened in that factual for sure.
And for 2,000 years, it's been considered. It's been in this document.
Yes. But so is the addition to the Lord's Prayer, and we don't talk about.
I agree with Colton, but I heavily am starting to sympathize with Josh on this.
I know you're bringing this up because I don't know if you agree.
Well, no. It's an interesting conversation, but it's just like if for 2,000 years the church, which has the authority of the Holy Spirit backing it, has considered this inspired.
That's the most Catholic thing you've said in a while.
I was going to say they've included a lot of other things that they also consider to be inspired, but
you're right, but not for the whole 2,000 years.
True. I mean, this one wasn't for the whole time, but whatever.
And this is.
They also didn't add Revelation till way later.
You're right, but the point in which Revelation and this were included is after the canon is closed.
That's true.
Sorry, it's before the canon is closed. So the term in which we say the canon is closed, if these are in the book, and we said that was inspired, even if it was added.
Yep. I don't know.
It also depends on how much you give the church authority. Because if the church actually has the authority to be led to follow what they would see as the leading of the Holy Spirit, in accepting or rejecting out of the canon, as Josh was saying, church authority accepted that specific document that was in front of them as canonical.
Yeah.
Does it simply have to be non-contradictory to be considered canon? Because that's a big thing is that people bring up the Mormon editions and edits to John specifically, but other things as well. Like in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was a God rather than the God kind of idea.
That's Jehovah's Witness.
That's Jehovah's
Is that
Witnesses.
JWs?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Same difference.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But like at what point do we draw a line and say this is canon, this isn't canon?
I don't know.
I'm fine with leaning on their tradition for most things because I don't know.
The point would be that, when was the canon closed? When did they consider the canon closed? Was it after this was added?
Yeah.
Well, then.
Sure.
I don't know.
But they also didn't have the same level of knowledge as we did.
You're right, but they were closer.
Well, yeah, but they also probably knew more about.
That's what I mean. Like they're closer to that time period.
Yeah, they probably knew more about the, let's say, what's it called, the handed down authenticity of the documents.
Yeah.
Right.
But now we've strayed really far.
I was going to say,
and I enjoy everything that this is.
This was good. This
is good.
We're going to have a thing on biblical inspiration itself.
What are some themes? If I were to say, hey, Josh, Colton, if I were to tell you the theme darkness,
Oh,
nice try. What specific passages come up, or darkness or dark night? What specifically come up? There should be at least two. But
I'm so bad at this. Even though I am the light of the world, chapter 8,
Yeah.
verse
that's not
12.
darkness.
No, but it's the
well,
opposite.
yeah.
Okay, I'll help you along. Okay. Jesus is presented obviously as the antithesis of darkness.
Yes. Yeah.
He's also the bringer of life.
Yeah.
Right. But one of the things that's presented in the gospel, which is why it's so important to understand the themes, is when does Nicodemus come to see Christ?
It's at night.
It's at night.
Yeah.
When what's his name? But Judas
yeah.
leaves. The author makes special note. Satan entered him, and it was night.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those themes heavily coincide. And if you misunderstand the themes,
Not even like we already talked about the introduction. The introduction goes over this. Big
oh
time.
yeah, the introduction is just straight
John
up
1, yeah.
is just straight up the thing. So like you have John 1:9, the true light which gives light to everyone is coming into the world. He is in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who are born not of blood, nor of will of the flesh, nor of the will of flesh, nor the will of man, but of God. It goes further and further on. And so there's a whole massive theme of belief. Belief specifically, not just in God, but specifically in Christ.
Yep.
Is the mode by which people enter the light.
Yeah, John 3:16.
Yeah. Well, is the mode by which people enter light, or they're confronted by light, and it's the mode by which they gain life. And to reject or to not believe in Christ is to immediately stay in darkness, stay in sin, stay in the trajectory of death.
And that's also a heavy theme in 1 John.
Yes.
That's a very strong theme. He relates that specifically to the prayer sermon that I had.
Yeah.
To that verse,
which is
specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He directly relates to the people of the light were saved by God, live like Jesus, are not of the darkness, are not of the devil, do not sin continually, like in an act of continuous willful sin.
Yep.
Repeatedly. Basically, have you repented? Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. Do you struggle with sin? Are you submissive towards sin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do so, then it means that when you pray, if you're of the light of all those things, if you pray, then you have assurance in God that what you pray for will be given to you. Because if all these things are true, what you're praying for is going to end up being the will of God.
End up being or is?
Is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just needed
Actualization.
I just needed to Calvinist course correct you there.
You're right. Thank you for setting me straight on my way.
But so like here's a little breakdown of John's prologue, and it's the reason why the prologue's so important is because it is that let's say the thematic key to what everything in the gospel
sets
is.
the tone.
So 1 to 4. So chapter 1 onward, the divine word, which came into the world, created the world. It possesses life, with which that life is light. And the light shines in darkness. However, the darkness will come against it. It will not prevail against it. The light is truth.
Yep.
So there's this playing with lies, deception, darkness. All of those are played with as well. And although the world did not know him, and although the world was made through him, it did not know him. His people reject him, but however, those believed, children of God, as we've read. However, they are children of God, not out of flesh, because flesh is almost synonymous with sin in John. Disbelief comes from flesh.
Yes.
It's
not permanently evil.
No. No, it's
Yeah.
it's not saying that flesh is itself evil. And in
Yeah.
fact, this might be
It's a
one of
big
the
part of John even. Yeah.
Well, yeah, kind of. It's actually one of the few things that is a massive Gnostic belief that it doesn't properly criticize. The main thing is because it's
That the body itself is evil, or that Jesus was not bodily.
we're going to get there.
Okay.
Because I mentioned that earlier, but I'm going to mention how those things coincide.
Okay.
The text itself doesn't really talk about, hey, being in a corporeal body, a physical body, physicality itself is evil, because that's a big thing in second century Gnosticism, which, among many other beliefs, John is combating. But that specific one, he doesn't. However, he does so kind of
I think he
reverse in a subliminal, like a subversion way.
Yeah.
Because God himself takes on a body. The incarnation itself
Right.
and
shows the legitimacy
yeah.
of flesh.
Through the narrative itself, you
Yeah.
see it. Yeah.
And so he subversely takes on that claim. However, he directly combat that.
yeah, it's kind of like if you've been following along this whole time, and then you get to the resurrection, and then it like the theme changes, but it doesn't tell you.
Yeah.
Like, and you just like
The implications of what is said directly go against the idea that flesh is sinful, which is a big
Yeah.
Gnostic heresy in the second century. However, that thing itself is not directly handled.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah. There's the idea that mere flesh, sin, cannot enter the kingdom of heaven, cannot be, child of God. And the belief, again, is the mode by which people enter. Belief appears to be the, let's say the transitory power, quote unquote.
Okay. And then, like, there's the qualifier at the end of that, not like with the not by flesh, but by God's will, and with this idea of belief and it being God's will. It's not like the Gnostics with their secret knowledge kind of idea, but it's a thing presented to you.
Yeah. Well, the idea is that because Christ came into the world,
Right.
there's like this with Jesus. There's this very like, hey, public stuff. This is a open truth.
Yeah,
this
for
is
everyone, for the world.
for anyone who believes. And so it's actually built within even the structure within John. So you have your prologue, then you have a large segment of, hey, these are the signs and this build-up of tension. He's performing these miracles, having these conversations, and things are growing and growing and growing until he raises Lazarus from the dead.
Right.
Huge, right?
Yes.
And then at that point, the gospel says, hey, and from that moment on, they seeked to kill him. Then there's a massive shift. The rest of it is, hey, Jesus is... it's leading to Jesus' death. This is his last times with the disciples. In fact, the high priestly discourse or the high priestly sermon or whatever that's normally referred to in academia is just that entire section where Jesus is talking at the Last Supper, which in John encompasses several passages.
oh yeah, it's huge.
It's huge, yeah.
Yeah,
And then at the end you have his crucifixion and resurrection. And the mini little prologue of what we've already mentioned, the whole so that you may believe.
yeah,
And so it's even baked within the outline of the book. Is this, hey, Christ does these miracles. They're going to kill him for it. They do kill him for it because he is the light, because he is,
and they're the darkness.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's all built in together. What's up?
Oh, I was about to cut you off like I did the end of the podcast.
No, it's okay.
Continue.
Please.
Yeah?
What do you want to say?
Oh, I was going to say, what about the I am themes?
We're getting there.
Okay. That's why I said I was going to cut you off.
Cool.
I don't mean to cut you off now, but to go off on one of your things, just to tie this idea of being presented to the world, that Jesus has come to show the world that those who choose him can believe. I think is one of the most obvious themes in the book. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a lot of what I hear about is this idea of whoever shall believe in it. Obviously, there's John 3:16, which is the big one.
If you watch baseball, you see it every time. It's the guy with the John 3:16 sign there.
There you go. But to bring back my old friend, the guy who wrote The Shack, whose name I can never remember.
Paul Young or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul Young.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
find
remembered.
I don't want to bring it up for too long, but it's this idea that people then take it a little too far, where people say, well, it's to the whole world, that it's so obvious to present it, this idea of presenting belief, and then those who believe in him get it. It's like this free gift kind of idea, rather than this secret knowledge. That it gets to the point where, well, especially Paul Young, even in that book, Lies We Believe About God, where he has this whole manifesto about, John says it's for literally everybody, not just those who believe, kind of idea.
Yeah.
So Caleb, do you see that idea that it's more towards like a universalist, save everyone kind of idea?
I don't know. I'm just going to read the next verse right after John 3:16. Okay.
Do we want to read John 3:16?
I'm going to.
Okay.
Yeah. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that I immediately started defaulting into King James because I was learning it when I was a kid. Wow. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned. Comma.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
whoever does not believe in him is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and the people love darkness rather than the light, because they were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his works should be exposed. Now, playing with the themes again, and not just because he further goes on to go like, hey, you need to be born again in order to enter the kingdom of God. Well, the light is the life. Light is Christ. Light is all truth.
Right.
All of those things.
All these thematic ideas.
What is one of the interesting things that I kind of wish that when I wrote a paper on the themes, is I kind of wished that he would have asked me or let me also do a essay where the antithesis of those themes are applied, or not the antithesis, the opposite of those themes, because that's a big point. Without Christ, you don't have life. What is that? Death.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, darkness is mentioned. Death is less so mentioned, but it is mentioned. To choose to reject Christ is to choose darkness, choose death, choose, actually, as later on portrayed in John, choose the way of Satan.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, does it go towards universalism? Not if you continue to read your Bible.
Not if you read John.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you read it, you'd know that.
It's the classic read the next verse.
Yeah.
Like with every like misquote like that, it's like just read one more.
Yeah.
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 Read the verse before, read the verse after. Usually it fixes the problem. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I didn't want to go on too long about this,
fine.
obviously.
That's fine. Universalists do love John, although they don't know how to read it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up. Yeah.
But to Josh's point, we've covered over like the main little themes in the prologue, and then it's played on throughout, and then all that. However, John refers, as mentioned previously, John actually has a more developed Christology.
Yes.
And so there's what's called the I am statements.
Yeah.
Borrowed from God in Exodus.
Yes.
Okay.
However, it's in Greek, obviously, because it's written in Greek. So the ego eimi statements. There's he's the bread of life, the light of the world, buying again into that.
I am the light of the world. I am the bread of life.
Yeah. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the true vine. Such words would not have been lost on a Jew, obviously so by the high priest.
Is the before Abraham was I am
We're getting there.
one of them?
Yep.
Okay.
And that one is specifically triggering for the Jews at that point.
It's also grammatically errorous, but it's great.
Oh, it's awesome.
Specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
I'll just read out one of the little blurbs that I have on here. And one of the things that when we're talking about Jesus' self-identification, there's a big thing that's, I think, often overlooked that really helps when we're discussing things with JWs, as Colton brought up. At one point, Jesus even states before Abraham was, I am, John 8:5-8. which is a massive thing that actually causes plays a major contributing factor in his trial. Additionally, Jesus also, in this whole self-identification thing, Jesus also allows people to worship him. This is in John, specifically 9:3-6. There's massive Christological worship movements in Revelation, and then it's also in Matthew and Luke. And they call him God in 20. His disciples, specifically doubting Thomas, he goes, "My Lord and my God."
Right.
In John 20:28. There's a Jesus self-identification. He's not afraid to use the like sacred Exodus 3:14 "I am who I am" statement to himself, which is huge. Massive. Yeah. Not only that, that's normally said at the same time as massive Jewish festivals.
Right. That's Jehovah, right? That's what they
Oh man. Our Hebrew
that's
professor
another podcast.
would
I know. I kept using
beat you
it.
with a Hebrew Bible.
I'm sure he already wanted to. I used it a lot.
So
Yahweh.
he uses that to self-identify.
Yeah.
He uses that in the context of the Festival of Lights, how the temple is. So when the temple was rededicated during the Maccabean Revolt, all that kind of stuff.
They put some Christmas lights on it.
Yeah, they put the Christmas lights on it. There was 5 things, and the temple lit up Jerusalem. And anyway, it was a big thing. How like the temple is the light by which Israel is both sees and functions and all that. And he gets up in the middle of that and is like, "Hey, I'm the light of the world." Right. I am, specifically me. Do you get? I am ego in me.
I like the idea of like everybody celebrating. There's music, tambourines, everything's going on. Then you just hear of a guy like pushing a box in the side, and he like guy stands up and he's like, "Hey everyone, I'm the light of the world." Yeah.
You think God's presence is there? Nah.
And then everybody just like stops playing music and just like awkwardly looking at this guy.
Well,
like
as you bring up in chapter 8, 57. 58. When he says, "Very truly I tell you, before Abraham was born, I am." They literally tried to stone him.
Yeah.
They try to stone him. It's that big of a deal. They think he's literally blasphemous.
He makes a verbal claim to deityship.
Yeah.
And anybody that doesn't deny that, anybody that denies that, not only just needs better understanding of the Bible.
This is
needs
one
massive
time.
Understanding.
This is only one time
of Jewish first century context. Jews don't do that. Jews were so
bring up Jehovah,
Jeepers, buddy. Jews were so careful about not using the reverence of the name of God. They forgot how it's pronounced. Like that's how like let's not. Yeah. Colton looking. It's Jehovah. You get it?
It's not. It's Yahweh.
Maybe.
That's the closest.
Probably an educated guess.
Yeah, a very good educated guess, maybe. I'm so excited to hear God say it one day when we're in heaven, and we're just like, that doesn't sound anything like it.
Yeah. There is emphasis on the educated in that educated guess. It's not just off nothing. Jehovah.
But Jesus allows himself to be worshipped. I'm going to make a specific point out of this, okay? It's not just in John. It's not just in one point he's called, he's worshipped in John. He prohibits the action, he specifically prohibits the action to be done to anyone else other than God in Matthew 4:10 and Luke 4:10. I know that's outside of John, but the same guy, same guy, and this is common Jewish belief. He's not saying anything new at that point. However, by using the same Greek word, proskuno, something like
proskuo?
That. Yeah, that's the one. By the same Greek word. However, he allows the disciples to perform the action upon him. What would that say about how he views himself?
Well, it's also not just like, he's not just saying, he's not just saying like, I've got a little bit of God in me. Like that. He's like, no, I'm the God you dedicated that temple to.
Yeah. I am Yahweh.
Yeah.
I am who I am.
No. I dragged you out of Egypt. I made David king.
In flesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Well, and then you have Paul that articulates this. I think rather well. He is the, how does it go? He is the fullness of God. It's related to coinage, where the imprint of the
yeah.
emperor is upon the coin. That
Right.
is the fullness of the emperor.
Yes.
okay.
Where
Yeah,
we
yeah,
are
yeah.
but images reflecting the glory. He is the glory itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where's that from?
It's in. I can actually look it up here. Sorry, I'll be able to find it.
No
No,
worries.
that's all right. Yeah, and that's that coinage idea is it's a good analogy.
I'll just pull it up.
Colton, John.
yes,
It's a good book.
It is.
I think my favorite part about John, just to give you time, is the prayer.
The Lord's Prayer.
Are you going to talk about the prayer?
My favorite edition?
No, Jesus' personal prayer.
Oh, the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
Gethsemane.
I can never pronounce it right.
That prayer,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, dude.
Which
It's
chapter?
like, let me find it. The High Priestly Prayer, chapter 17.
Okay.
Yeah. Colossians. Sorry, I'm just going to interject.
Yep, absolutely,
You're
we're
right. Colossians 1:19. For God was pleased to put all of his fullness to dwell within him.
Right.
Infinite being wrapping himself in finiteness.
Yeah.
Fully God. You get into early Trinitarian thought and how that the incarnation is still a mystery. At least I would say so. Some people would. What?
No. You're absolutely correct. The even the Athanasian Creed of like the Trinity doctrine, it states like you cannot understand the mystery of the Trinity. You can only understand the doctrine of the Trinity.
Yeah. Well, I think
Right.
one of the ways
Yeah.
that I've heard it articulated is the Bible lays out with in regards to the incarnation, lays out a boundary of these. This is the thing that happened.
Yes.
Inside which we can disagree.
Yeah.
Outside of which is heresy.
Yeah.
3 persons in one Godhead, distinct personages, but yet
Yeah.
one will.
And Christ, 2 natures, fully God, fully man,
Yeah.
in one person.
Yes. And yeah.
It's fun.
But such those doctrines are I would say, and I think the record shows this, are more influenced by John because John deals with a more developed Christology,
Yeah.
and more specifically the identity of Christ
Right.
and God and his association with God. I and the Father are one. You've seen the Father, you've seen me. That whole kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's John has had a disproportionate amount of influence in Christological studies, just because of its focus on the identity of Christ.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
the prayer in Gethsemane, you can take it away. You seem to like this. You want to go somewhere.
No, just Kate. What I love about it is like it's unlike any of the other passages. It seems like an insight into Jesus's head.
Well, one of the issues is, and I've read stuff on this, is that who recorded that and how do they know?
Yeah, my guess would be if the 3 disciples, John, Peter, and James, were there. Jesus like goes to them and says, "Can you not stay awake with me in prayer,
Even for 1 hour, yeah.
even for 1 hour?" That if they're in a forest at night together, in the garden at night together, you can hear for a long distance. So if Jesus is praying out loud, John could have heard this.
This is true.
And this could not be the entirety of the prayer itself.
No,
just the
no.
things he
No.
either heard or
Especially if
picked
it's
up on.
1 hour.
Yeah.
But it's just so beautiful because like there's also one passage where so at his first part up until verse 19 he's praying for his disciples, like the ones immediately the 12 and like his followers, but then in verse 20 he's praying to the people that will believe in him that aren't alive.
Yeah.
And it's just like, when you're reading this text, John is making that point where he's like, I'm writing this so that you believe. Jesus is directly referencing you in this, where it's like, I do not ask for these only, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they may also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. And it's just like he's praying for you.
Yeah. And,
It's-
and again, that the verse directly after that is that they may be one as we are one.
Yeah. Well, and then you also have the reference in John 20:29 with doubting Thomas again. There's the he shows up. Doubting Thomas is like, "Whoa, my Lord and my God. And then Jesus says, you believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who do not see, yet still believe. Again, that there's like, hey, there will be people who have faith that have not seen Christ.
Yep.
Father, I desire that they also, whom you have given me, may be with me where I am. Damn.
There's a lot of
Beautiful.
So
the prayers are so good.
one of the unique things about John, and I guess we'll get into more just
Is he records God praying to himself?
Yeah, no, but one of the unique things, instead of narrative parables and like all these kind of things, there's discourses.
Yes.
Again, playing into that Greek drama thing.
Yeah.
There's rather than like a secret messianic thing that goes on a little bit in specifically Mark and more Matthew, in order to combat the whole idea of like, no, God came in Christ for the world, for everyone.
Yep.
And while there was like a secret mystery and confusion about in the history idea, in the let's say the theological importance of God coming to the world and it's preached openly, the authors emphasize, hey, it was open. Everyone knows that Jesus is getting up on the soapbox and saying, ego in me.
And they tried to kill him, but they couldn't for some reason.
Yeah, because his hour had not yet come.
Yeah.
And so
he just disappeared.
He literally slips through, I think is the word they use.
Yeah.
It's a slippery snake.
Rather than having, one of the other unique things is rather than having a kingdom of God motif, there is a new life, a spiritual rebirth. And those are obviously presented as two sides of the same coin in a holistic theology. But those are different things are emphasized. In those. What else?
A different angle on the same entity. Different picture presenting the same landscape.
Yeah. There's a lot of other stuff, but there are of course similarities with the synoptics. But one of the biggest things about John is its differences, especially in its genre, its presentation, its Christology. Even its soteriology has difficulties, at least in my opinion, with John.
We've talked about this,
we've talked about this, where Jesus is seen as taking on the punishment of all sin and death upon him. And now you are judged for rejecting Jesus, not for your sin and death. Whereas Pauline soteriology goes, no, God's judgment falls on all of sin and death. For those who are in Christ, their bit is taken on in Christ. And so there's some differences there that I'd like to explore. I'm not going to try to glaze over them.
Are you saying there's a different atonement theory?
Moral influence.
No.
You and I have talked about this at one point, and I forget my original statement, but I think it had. We were trying to figure out if there was a connection between them.
There is.
They appear opposing, but I think we came up with this idea that it's like a temporal perspective.
There may be a temporal thing going on there. I would rather just apply to John, and it's not meant to be read as a soteriological textbook.
Right. It's not like the epistles, which talk about like what do you do now with specific church kind of idea.
This is what does this, and this is how this functions, and that being said, Paul isn't trying to write a textbook either, and so it can be false to even take his things, which are the most textbook-like.
Peter even says it can be confusing. I understand.
No, but but that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that Paul is not writing a theological textbook either, even though his is the most like that. That can be mistaken, but not even close with John. John's not trying to write a theological textbook. If anything, it's it's writing a play to get you to go, this is a story of how Jesus changed the world, and what are you going to do about it now that you know about it?
Also, he's good because light and life.
Also, normally one of the first Gospels translated into a new language.
Yes, because it's the coolest.
It's completely
really?
fair.
Is it your favorite?
I mean, it has to be, dude.
Mine has to be Luke because I did research on it.
Okay, cool.
Also, I like Luke Acts together.
what do we do? Do you got anything on after he's resurrected?
We can talk more about the festivals, or we can end it there. I don't.
Do we want to talk about the resurrection?
I was going to say we should probably talk about resurrection.
That crucifixion and resurrection?
We can. Crucifixion and resurrection theme
what's
is...
the importance that John places on it?
it's Christus Victor so hard it doesn't even care.
Okay.
It is Christus Victor. But,
Yeah.
like... and that's even presented in the prologue. The darkness came against it, but it did not. But the darkness did not prevail.
Yeah.
Again, with this idea of a grand narrative of world creation.
Yeah, and tying into with creation. Creation has lost its view of God, and He comes down into the world as light, as truth, as life to save it. Those who believe don't.
Yeah.
How does He conquer darkness? By actually swallowing it, taking it all on, and then showing that it has no power over Him. Now He holds all the keys to sin and death. Blah blah blah.
Here's the
blah,
thing.
blah, blah.
I think the gospel should be ordered John, Matthew, Mark, Luke.
I agree.
Yeah. Because he starts the same way that Genesis starts, and it's the beginning of the New Testament. And then it also allows Luke and Acts to be beside each other.
Right.
And the synoptics are still together.
You might not be comfortable, but it is.
and the synoptics are still together.
I like it. I don't know if you should put a non...
I don't think we should change the ordering of the Bible. I'm not
Synoptic.
saying that.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm going to die on that hill.
Okay. I'm trying to put myself in the position of the people who ordered the Bible, the hundreds of people who were talking about it, debated it for years. I understand why they put it the way it is. I still think Luke
because
and
it
Acts
was
should be
shortest to
together.
longest.
Yeah. I think that Luke Acts should
Luke
be
is longer than
You're
John.
right. You're right.
It is. It's the longest one.
Yeah.
Luke
Sorry,
Acts, in my
it's
opinion, should be
synoptics, then not synoptics. But in the groupings, it's shortest to longest.
I promised people we wouldn't get into the synoptics this episode.
Yeah.
together. Okay. Final nail in the coffin.
Nope.
Synoptics, Acts, then John.
Ugh.
Gross.
But Christus Victor, hard.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this it's the main display of like Christ breaks the powers of darkness by taking them on, even in this pacifistic type state, showing that not only do they not have sway over him,
Currently pacifistic.
yeah, actually, if we're gonna get into that,
Revelation is a slaughter.
yeah,
A grace period.
yes.
Do you want mercy? You can have it.
For now.
The time is now. There's a discount on entering heaven.
like
It's
in a
free.
marriage. Like in a marriage, it's like say like your oppositions or forever hold your peace. So it's just like referred to as like a marriage.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's
There you go. There's a connection.
yeah.
But going after resurrection, there's, as Josh has brought up previously, actually, that there's a whole whack load of people that he meets, and he eats with people, and there's a heightened emphasis, and I think that this again ties into more the not apologetic per se, but that anti-Gnostic theology that's being propagated there.
Yeah.
Hey,
Right.
Jesus physically rose.
Right.
People physically saw him. People physically touched him. He ate physical food. And that's a big theme, obviously, with John. And that I think that both the resurrection goes against the whole, the way it's presented in John is it's not physicality itself that's evil. It's
Right.
human sin.
Yeah.
What's that?
Sure. Yeah. No, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. Mary Magdalene, the disciples, Thomas, the whole 12, the 7 disciples again. And
The whole 12?
like when he's with Jesus and Thomas.
Right.
Sorry.
But that'd be 11.
11. Yeah, the betrayer is there.
Whoa!
Whoa.
Isn't this the gospel that says Judas who is to betray him or
Yeah.
something like that? It gives you a spoiler for what's about to happen.
Yeah.
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 It's my favorite part.
Whoa, spoiler alert.
Actually, one of the cool things that these guys also shows that they know, like Jewish theology, not just like read the Bible, but when he appears to the disciples on the road and then like they don't recognize him. And
Yeah,
then he
the
reveals
guys
himself.
to
Yeah, That's a clearly referencing Joseph when he meets his brothers who betray him, and then he reveals himself to them because they don't know who he is, and he has these conversations with them, and he's like, "Hey, it's me.
Guess who?
Guess who?" And then they're freaking out, and he's like, "It's okay.
I've never
Go
heard
tell
that.
everybody.
I've never
Go tell
heard
my
that.
dad." And then in this one, he says, "Go tell
All the rest of the disciples.
all the rest of the disciples."
Yeah.
And it's
I think tying in with this idea of Jesus being physically resurrected, being a human kind of idea, so I think that one of the themes I hear most, I don't want to say normies, that's the wrong word, but just
theme.
people when they talk about the themes in John is the humanness that is put across of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That it shows Jesus' emotions, even his thought processes, his soul kind of idea, whereas the other ones talk more about, like they get that across, especially ones like Luke, which talk about him eating with the poor and stuff.
Yeah.
But not as much on his reactions to things, how Jesus will cry at Lazarus' resurrection. Jesus wept in 11:32.
Not just cry, it's the same like rage-fueled emotion that like a horse gets when it like is like baring its teeth for war. It's the same word used to describe that. So it's because like the context of that passage is like he's on his way to fix to remove the curse of death, and one of his best friends dies right before he's about to fix the whole thing.
Well, it's
Right.
It's interesting to.
He's like, nah.
I think
Get out of there.
He's just asleep.
if Jesus knows that he's going to resurrect Lazarus,
Yeah.
what is his tears for?
Mm-hmm.
Is his tears specifically for his friend
We get
Lazarus?
to talk about this, yeah.
I
I thought we were going to talk about whether or not he was all-knowing.
No.
we're not.
Never
No, we're not
mind.
getting into
I
that.
think it actually is like he's sad that his friend died because like
That could be, and that's fine.
Yeah.
However, I'm more sympathetic towards the view that it's tears over. He knows he's going to resurrect Lazarus.
Yeah.
He knows that problem is going to be dealt with, and there's like a temporary sadness. But you're right. The amount of anguish that it causes him, the angst within, is high, and because it's this is his friend.
yeah.
Right. These are the people that he's surrounded with. These are the people that care about his friend.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that humans have been going through because of sin,
Forever.
because of darkness,
Yeah.
because of
It's the state of the world that he's grieving.
that it's the the state of things
And
the problem. He sees it, right, and
He feels it.
He feels it, and I think it's more that his tears are more about this is right. This is the situation that I came to save,
Absolutely.
and so it's both his friend, but he knows he's going to deal with that. But it's more that this is one instance of the human problem that everyone goes through.
Yeah.
And I think it's that is what is causing.
Well, because it's weird, but like this is the closest this is a showdown between God and his enemy.
Death?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like he's like
it's a precursor.
He will not win.
It's the precursor to the final showdown.
Yeah.
On Good Friday.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like this is all the problems, and he's just like, nah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not happening.
Yeah, and we talked about this. I think in the What and Why Part 2 podcast, but also I think your Basic Theodicy goes over this a little bit. Is why did Jesus come as a physical being? Like, what is the point? Why should we care about a God who cares about us? Kind of idea. It's like, well, Jesus came and he didn't just like understand. He doesn't just like see from outside source like, oh, you're suffering, whatever. Like, I'm gonna take it away. No, he felt it.
Yeah.
He doesn't empathize. He sympathizes.
Yeah.
He understands suffering and death better
Isn't
than
that the other way around?
No, sympathy is you understand it, right? His empathy is an outside.
I think empathy is the better one.
Probably.
Anyways, sorry.
It's just that in the Christian religion you have a God who not just knows sin, knows death, knows well, I shouldn't say sin, although he became sin. But anyway, well, and part of that builds into the whole, he's crucified, Father turns his face away, the song, but the whole, forsaken by God, cursed upon a tree, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Part of that's there.
He absorbs it.
Yeah, he was abandoned, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so you have a God unlike other religions. In the Christian religion, although there may not be a satisfactory intellectual answer to the problem of evil, not that that might even exist, but
Yep.
you have a God who's like, okay, I know the problem. I know the problem thoroughly, but I've felt the problem.
Yeah, I've experienced it more than even most people do.
Yeah, well, to the idea that he's experienced it the most.
Right.
That he knows human pain and suffering. And that's why you have Hebrews. Is it Hebrews? I believe it is. The whole, we do not have a high priest that is that cannot sympathize with us.
Yeah.
But instead, like, knows our problems, our struggles, and so I think that gets into it. And I think going back a little bit, one of the reasons why John's Jesus is so personable, is because instead of sermons and parables, is everything's discourse.
Yeah. It's when he says, "Take up your cross and follow me." He's saying that as somebody who's taking up his cross.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's like when he says, like you know,
Follow
like
my
when
footsteps.
like you're going to go through hardship and blah blah blah, but continue to obey and follow God and do good. And you're like why? Like I don't care, right?
Well, the idea is that
and he's
that's
like,
how Jesus changed the world.
Yeah.
Oh no, then it gets a little bit into moral influence, but that's
No.
fine.
No.
You saw the pattern. You at least
No.
Okay, fine. No.
I think it's just you, Caleb.
Joel will.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like he's saying that, like, as somebody who's suffering, he's saying you're going to suffer on my behalf. Well, because I suffered. Like, yeah. Yeah. It's
Sure.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it is a big part of John for sure. Is it the biggest theme? Well, it's so heavily tied in with life and light and all that.
Yeah, it's hard to say the definitive theme,
But it is the one I think laymen tend to latch onto the most, which is 100% fair.
Yeah, I think the main theme though is the identity of Christ.
Sure.
In John.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Which fits our pattern.
yeah, what was it you said last time?
Mark is the king is here.
Right.
Matthew is the kingdom is here. Luke is this is what the kingdom looks like. John is this is what the king looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. It's a little tiny chiasm.
I was going to say
It's a little tiny giant chiasm.
But yeah, now that concludes our 4
Yes.
things. We're gonna do a light harmony of the Gospels next week, but we still get to do our segment.
Yes.
Our new
What is our
segment.
What is our segment, Caleb?
Our new segment is Read It in the Bible, where we just take something online, normally a question online, whether it can be on Reddit, Facebook, whatever, Instagram,
The interwebs.
the interwebs, the internet for the youngsters.
Yes. The sequel to the ARPANET.
How do you do, fellow
Wow.
kids?
This jeepers.
Go on to... Never mind.
This week's question actually continues to tie in with Johannine thought, but Revelation, also written by John.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Who is...
Oh, because it's the revelation of John.
Yeah. Actually, it's called the Apocalypse of John, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
One of the characters in it, in the Apocalypse, which is a giant nightmare, is a beast.
Yes.
The question doesn't specify which beast,
Yes.
because there's 2, which I'll get Josh
Yeah.
to comment on which. But I believe the comment is
It's the
specifically
famous
talking
beast.
about the famous beast, the one
Yeah.
which the Whore of Babylon rides.
Yes.
The one with many heads?
Yes.
Yes.
Who's the beast there, Josh? Tell me. What do the numbers mean? What do the numbers
What do
mean?
they mean, Mason?
Well, do you want the legit answer or the quick answer?
Yes.
Okay. I'll do the quick one and then we can elaborate further. The quick answer is using apocalyptic literature, the beast symbolizes, as it does throughout many apocalyptic literatures in the Hebrew ways, a beast usually symbolizes a kingdom of sorts or a kingdom in ways.
The
And so,
empire.
yeah.
Getting with Daniel's.
Yeah. As in John's depiction, the dark kingdoms that oppose the kingdom of light, God's kingdom. And they sometimes momentarily win. But in John specifically, it's referencing the cultic worship of the emperor.
Yeah.
Okay.
which is the fuel and the culture of Rome. And the idea was that everybody worshipped the emperor on top of whatever gods they worshipped individually.
Right.
And Christians were called to not do so. Do not wear the mark of the beast.
I have a weird thing with the mark of the beast. Okay.
Yeah.
Not that it's the vaccination.
It's a credit card you put in your wrist.
It's no.
It's the QR code we're all getting in the back of our heads.
Nice. No.
Agent 47.
Yeah. No, it's the monster cans.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Even
Oh my
though
gosh.
more earlier documents say it's 616 rather than 666, but whatever.
But both numbers work for the individual that it's most likely prescribed to.
Yeah, because Nero.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
Yeah.
The mark of the beast
Yes.
is said to be on the foreheads and hands
Yes.
of those who participate in the worship of the beast.
Yeah.
Which I'd like to get into in a second here. Do you
It's
subscribe
literal,
to
right?
the idea? Yeah, no, 100% literal. It's literally figurative.
Apocalypse is famously literal, right?
It's literally figurative. Would you subscribe to the idea that when it's talking of the hands and the head, it's the thoughts and the actions
Thank
of
you.
the worship?
Yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah, it's the thoughts and the actions of the people who worship the beast. And that ties further into the Johannine issue with, hey, how do we tell out false teachers, prophets, all that kind of stuff.
If you are of the light and believe in the light, you will behave like the light.
Yeah.
If you're of the darkness, you'll think of the darkness
Yeah.
and behave the darkness.
Yeah. If you want to judge him by his fruits.
Yeah.
And so, what will people that are part of the kingdom, the kingdom of darkness, the people of the beast, what will they do? Well, their fruits will show that they are the people
And their
of the
thoughts
beast.
and their actions.
This
Yeah.
loosely gets back to the Levitical idea of when God and Deuteronomy, when God says the famous Deuteronomy 6, the beginning with the Shema, and then like the love of the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and then read the word, like remember me, read
Yeah.
the law daily, read it when you go up, when you go down, when you sleep, when you blah blah blah.
Tie it on boxes into
Tie
your
it on
body.
boxes on your forehead
Yeah.
and on your hands.
Yes.
And on your doorway and on your all
Yeah.
these things, and it's keeping the word of God on
Living according to it.
yeah, and it's putting physically into practice so that it never leaves your mind. And the idea is that these two groups, the people who have the mark of God or the mark of the beast, they're so consumed with what they believe. The like their life,
Yeah.
who they are is the thoughts and the actions of their belief system.
As
Are
if-
you of this?
As if it was literally marked on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that causes the beast to be worshipped
yes.
in Revelation is that it will have said to have been slain,
Yeah.
or it will be said to have been marred or killed or whatever, and it has a fake death and resurrection thing,
Like Jesus.
like Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
A fake miracle of sorts.
Yeah.
I just really like this because it ties in with history. Some people have pointed out that that it could be how the Caesar was killed.
Yep.
The head of
Yep.
the Roman Empire was killed, and yet the empire continued on. Octavian continued on. It appears more likely, though, if the beast and the mark of the beast is going towards Nero, that it appears better
Byzantium.
Nero's attempted suicide,
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
death, come back. Wow,
Yeah.
massive thing. Because the mark of the beast is
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
that's where most people go.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think that's really interesting, and it ties
Yeah.
in that little like.
And
It's a further tie with Nero more than just the numbers, which are a reference to Tiberius. Although he can't say Nero because then that would cause massive problems. But
Yeah.
if the numbers reference
It's literal
Tiberius and
treason,
everyone
yeah.
knows that Nero's the current emperor, the idea is, oh, hey, this is not Nero. Wink.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not a traitor. I promise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Roman emperor cult.
Yep.
One of the things that's heavily tied with the beast is the whore Babylon,
Yes.
which is the how can I word it? The economic prosperity that is built off of the debauchery and oppression of the saints and all that.
Yeah.
One of the things with Roman emperor cult is heavily tied to commerce.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why you have this, like, hey, when Babylon dies, when the woman of Babylon, the whore of Babylon dies, the traders and the merchants will weep, for the economic loss.
Right.
And because one of the things is, if you don't participate in the Roman emperor cult, it was very hard to get into markets, specifically in Anatolia, in modern day Turkey, which is where the 7 churches where that apocalypse is written to.
Right.
And so it further ties in with that Roman emperor cult, apocalypse of the Roman emperor cult, whore of Babylon, representing merchant. Representing some kind of merchant class that's built off of these immoral idolatry.
Well, it's generally the idea that like the religious systems outside of it's hard to separate church and state.
Yeah, especially back then.
Yeah. The like fake church and fake state.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Like it's
Yeah.
I love Revelation.
So in other words, the beast is
worshiping anything that's not God,
There you
specifically with him in this context, because it's, as we know from eschatological literature class that we all shared, except for
Not me.
Colton,
Not me.
is like the normatively with apocalyptic literature, specifically within the Bible, there is a pattern of destructive events known as the days of the Lord, and they slowly, from the beginning of time to now, slowly reveal more and more about the nature of some ultimate version of this, and people think of Revelation as that ultimate thing of what it's going to be like as a prophecy, but in reality, John, as an apocalypse, is writing about an event that is occurring, and using the symbols of the time to present, hey, it's going to be like this.
Yeah.
Not
Sure.
look
This is
for
a
these
literal-
things.
yeah.
It's
Which
Well,
might be
there
a
are
bit
parts of that.
controversial.
yes.
There are parts
Yes.
of that. I was like, hey, know these signs.
Yes.
But it appears as though
The more general ideas.
it appears as though Revelation is totally aware that, hey, you know what? God will probably move in typological patterns.
Yeah. There is a pattern that he has moved on from
Well,
the flood.
and considering he uses ideas of different apocalypses through time, like Daniel and stuff like that, to
The Exodus.
It's actually
like Exodus.
Revelation is actually the most not necessarily hyperlinked going forward, obviously, because it's the last.
Yeah.
But it references previous texts more than any other book.
Yeah.
It
Right.
makes sense it being the last, but
Also,
so much, down to tiny little phrases of
Yes.
3-word things. Or it's just like,
That's
that's a
insane.
tie to. It's wild.
Yeah.
In that book that I gave you, I'm so glad
need to read
I'm
it.
so glad you're reading it.
I'm starting it. I just
it's
started.
so good.
Which book is it?
All Things New.
Okay.
We
By
will talk
Brian
about it on-
Tabb.
I have
probably.
no idea.
I think it's Brian Tabb.
Okay.
It's in the IVP.
Brian Adams.
It's in the IVP New Studies in Biblical Theology.
Yeah.
It's
We'll talk
very
about it as what have you read at some point.
good. Yeah.
And if you're, apocalyptic literature is, it is difficult.
Oh, dude, John
Yeah.
Collins'
Yeah.
Apocalyptic Imagination is an amazing book.
Yeah.
Very dense and hard to get through, though.
Yes.
Right. Well, and when you talk about apocalyptic literature, especially Revelation, it's automatically going to become controversial very quickly.
Yeah,
because
people
everyone
have-
disagrees.
People have very strong opinions about it, too. It'd be
Yes.
like, oh, if you disagree with this, well, you're...
and if you lean more towards
It's a good thing Jesus loves you.
well, yeah, if you lean more towards a more fundamentalist, like this is a literal translation, like there will be 4 supermoons or whatever blood moons. Are
The supermoon!
Well, my favorite,
Well, it's a supermoon tonight, so
I'm just excited for a red dragon to show up with 10 heads.
well, yeah.
I remember people...
I want that reality.
I've heard the argument where it's like, hey, but people are getting more what is it, normalized with
Yes. Yeah.
crazy things on television. When the dragon shows up, man, it's going to be, who knows, man? Maybe
Yeah.
it'll just go along with it. And it's just like,
I'm just going to talk about medieval mythology
No, but
just
it's
for
like-
a little bit. Just
But what would you do if, you're 40 or whatever, and suddenly
I'd ride
full
it.
depiction of
I wanna
Satan
ride
as
it.
the great red dragon appears just over the skies, and you're just like, oh,
I want to ride it.
I guess it's happening. No, you don't.
No?
No.
Oh, you're right.
It's also because the dragons, in like that archetypal sense, is representation of the evil wizard that's behind the beast.
Yeah.
There's some weird things going on there.
Well, no. It's not just that. It's the
We've derailed so hard,
I
but
know.
I love
No, it's
this.
great.
I love talking about Revelation.
Satan is the evil wizard Maleficent behind the dragon which she becomes, which is the great red dragon, which is behind the kingdom, her castle, the beast.
Oh my gosh, it's Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
You're saying Sleeping Beauty is
the
Revelation?
Sleeping Beauty, yeah.
It's you.
Whoa, buddy.
That's what you said.
Well, the if you create a story that is true in archetype, it's going to draw on biblical truths.
Okay, I agree.
If you say something profound and beautiful and meaningful, it's going to draw on biblical truths.
So what you're saying, if it's right, it's probably the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Also,
And-
yeah, it's good to keep a loose interpretation of Revelation.
Yeah.
It's probably, yeah.
I think taking a literal approach is just going to hinder your
Just-
ideas of the Bible.
Don't get so
Yeah.
hardened around your beliefs about what may happen.
And don't be too loose around them either. Either
Yeah,
one.
but like focus on
Approach it
finding
with
the
fear and
truth.
trembling.
Where does
Right?
where does Jesus want me to work right now? How am I going to further the kingdom with my little effort and God's great power?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's going to conclude this episode. Next episode, we're going to do the Harmony of the Gospels.
Thank you, Caleb, for bringing us John.
No
Yeah.
problem. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did this series.
Yes.
We're going to do Harmony of the Gospels, and then we're going to do a basic hermeneutics episode, which is going to be pretty fun.
Sweet.
I'm super excited about it. How do you read the Bible? And the answer is I try to.
With your eyes.
Yeah. Well,
Never mind. Dang it.
If
Use
I've learned
Braille.
anything from the book of Eli,
Oh, no.
it's with your fingertips.
it's that the only person that can read the Bible in the apocalypse is a guy that has no eyes.
So you're saying that if you read it in Braille, that's the true way to read the Bible?
No, it's the only way because all the other Bibles burnt up.
One of the weird things, though,
You're
is if it's in Braille,
Oh,
it's just still in English.
But no, you're right. But
Which is
also
the same thing as just it written
But
down.
also the book of Eli, like, so God's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird, eh? Oh, wait, that answers our first question. What is a non-Christian depiction
Of the actual God.
Of the actual God.
Oh, yeah, it's
in
the book of
media?
Eli.
It's the book of Eli. Anyway, we're
Yeah.
going to conclude on that. Thank you for getting this far in the
I've
podcast.
never seen it. You're talking about the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a book of the Bible. No, I was like, are you guys insane?
No,
Okay, never
have you
mind.
watched the book of Eli?
I have not.
I guess-
What?
We'll talk about this later.
We'll conclude here saying, Colton, we will watch the book of Eli with you
Can't
if
wait.
our audience also participates in watching the book of Eli, which is a wild
Comment on the next video.
Watch together.
See you next time.